products. So if you look up on the screen right now, you'll notice this spreadsheet, and it's probably about 300 to 400 products long. Now, this is not the latest one, but this is one that I compiled right in the beginning. So you can see all the suppliers that I've used, what the specific products are, how I set up the spreadsheet. And this is exactly what I teach people to do when I tell them to do it, right? You want the supplier, obviously. You want the product identifier, which is going to be the ASIN, so that you can obviously find it on Amazon if you need to. You can add it to your inventory and a number of other things. You want exactly what the product is, as you can see here. And you also want the link to the supplier so that you can ultimately check it. Although if you're using something like SKU Grid, your stock and your prices will be monitored automatically anyway, but it's just good to have. And one more thing that you want, this last column here, is the minimum prices, so that you know when you set it up in your repricer, you never reprice yourself out of profit, right? You always want to know your break-even price so you don't go below that and you're not losing money on a sale. And again, all this is monitored and changed with software. SKU Grid is the one that does the inventory management, like I said, and the pricing changes. So we are going to go through Source Mogul here in a second, because one of the main questions that I get asked when people get into this is, okay, like you say obscure retail suppliers, right? Not big box brands, not recognizable suppliers that are ultimately going to get you suspended, but like, what do you mean by that, right? And the answer is it's more of an art than a science. There's not like some specific indicator that like makes a supplier a good supplier versus one that's a bad supplier. And I'm going to go through every supplier here on Source Mogul with you here in a second and literally tell you if I think it's a good one or not. And there's 216 of them, as you can see. So you're going to have some good examples of suppliers that are obscure enough and ones that aren't. But ultimately, if you stay away from the big box brands that are recognizable, like your Kmart's, for example, your Barnes and Nobles, your Walmarts, your Targets, etc., you will be better off. The more obscure the supplier, the better, okay? And I was actually suspended on Amazon twice for this and figured out how to set up a plan of action to get back both times. You can see, like, I'm not just saying, like, don't drop ship from, like, big box brands. Do it this way, don't do it that way. It's all from experience. You can see I drop ship from Lowe's. I drop ship from Best Buy. I drop ship from GameStop. I drop ship from Target, Sam's Club, and all these other ones right here. Now, I did drop this spreadsheet with a little bit of explanation in the Discord for free. I also kind of sent it out to the email list. So if you're not on an email list, just join the email list down in the description. You could also just join the Discord. I dropped this for free in the Discord to help people out. But let's just go through some of these suppliers, as you can see here. So Lowe's, obviously, Best Buy, GameStop I used. Webstaurant is actually a pretty good one. Bed Bath & Beyond, no. Costco, no, obviously. Acme Tools is a very solid one that's a little bit more obscure as well. Had a lot of success dropshipping high ticket products from Acme Tools, but there's plenty of low ticket products as well. This Polaroid camera I sold over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for like $20 or $30, sometimes $40 profit. It was a phenomenal opportunity to dropship on Amazon, and it sold like 2 or 3 times a day. So let's check to see like if some of these are even still available as opportunities. I think there's 384 on here. And again, this was back in the day, right? So this was like a year and a half ago when I built this spreadsheet out. If the products that I was drop shipping, you know, they weren't good for long, then we took them off the spreadsheet, right? And this is not the final edition of the spreadsheet. Obviously, I moved more into obscure suppliers and I took out a lot of these big box brands, but this is a pretty solid spreadsheet. You can find a lot of profitable products on this spreadsheet, I would venture to assume, even still. Okay, that's the beauty of Amazon dropshipping. When you find good products, they typically have a longer shelf life. Not always, but you know, overall, that is typically the case. So let's go through and check to see if some of these are still opportunities that you could make money on. So this Acme Tools one right here, let's see, Dymo XTL 1-inch. You'd obviously want the product identifier. Source Mogul, which is the software that we're going to cover here in a second, and I always recommend, actually compares both the product identifier, the pictures, the title, and some other key things as well. So chances are you won't really have to do a lot of these. They're going to spoon feed you these products on Amazon and then on the supplier. So it's going to be very easier for you to like just check if the price is different, if it's profitable, and then verify that it is the same thing. But for the sake of just checking on our end right now, let's see if this product is still profitable and if it's still selling on Amazon. So the Dymo Flex XTL 24 millimeter. I'm not sure if this is the 24 millimeter. So this one isn't profitable anymore. It's roughly the same price. See, Big Bad Toy Store. Here's another Acme Tools one. Let's try this one. Palisade, whatever. Now, when I actually made a video on this, like 6 months ago, probably, on my biggest Amazon sale ever. And I believe this or one of the similar staples was one of the products that I sold. And that sale was like over $1,000 profit. So let's check if this is still profitable and throw you guys a bone. Maybe this one will be. This is Palisade 1.5 inch. Let's actually take the ASIN here. It'll be a little bit easier. So this one is actually, if you search Amazon for that ASIN, you can find that the Palisade 1.5 inch 16 GA, I don't know what that is, 1.5 inch, Palisade 1.5 inch 16 GA 1.5 inch. So this is selling currently on Amazon for $133. On Acme Tools, it's selling for $93.99 currently. So this is probably still a good opportunity. That's another perfect example of one. Now let's find one more just to kind of show you. Obviously, I don't recommend that you dropship from Target. This is too big box brandy. But oh, here's actually the other Polaroid one from Best Buy. Let's see if we can find that. Nope, no longer available. But this is the camera that I used to sell over and over again, both the white one and the black one, and made a killing on it. Let's try Academy Sports. Another example, I used to sell these pressure washed tennis balls all the time for ridiculous profits. I bet you this is still on Amazon. Let's see if it's still profitable. And in my opinion, Acme, Acme Sports is a good supplier. It's obscure enough. I never had an issue with them. So the bucket, I'm not seeing the bucket here. So this bucket right here is no longer on Amazon currently, but the tennis balls are. So you could buy the bucket and then potentially sell them individually if you wanted to. I wouldn't approach it that way though. So for the sake of saving your time, I'm not gonna go through every single product on this spreadsheet, but trust me when I say there's probably a good dozen or so, maybe like 50 or so, honestly, out of these 380 some products that are still profitable, still good buys. Again, that's linked in the Discord for free if you want to join that. I also emailed it out to the email list. If you're not on the email list, I'm constantly sending gems like this out whenever I come across them. Now that we covered that, let's move into SourceMogul. So to recap, SourceMogul is a software that I utilize to compare all sorts of products on these websites. So to show you an example of how SourceMogul works really fast, let's just grab one that doesn't have a lot of products here. So calendars has like 10,000. This one will go pretty fast. So basically what it does is it compares the products on calendars in this example, or on whatever retail supplier you select, to Amazon's catalog against their specific products, the product identifiers, the title of the actual product, the pictures, and a number of other things, and spoon feeds you based on the parameters that you set in it, which products are profitable that you should then check out further. And that's how I find profitable products to drop ship on Amazon retail wise. Okay, so now that that's done scanning, took a couple minutes because it wasn't a very big supplier, you can see that ultimately it's found about 1,100 matches, a little bit over. So we can set the parameters based on the ROI that we want back, the profit that we want back, the actual sales rank. So if you wanted like no higher than 200,000, then you could go no higher than 200,000, right? If you wanted 100,000, you could say that. Always put your match rate accuracy up. And now that you can see that all products on Amazon under 200,000 rank with a high match accuracy, there's 272 products on calendars that also match up with Amazon's catalog. So we're getting a 10% ROI. We're getting at least $6 profit margin. As we increase these things, you'll start to notice that the results kind of dwindle down a little bit because we're expecting more profit. So you can go like more profit or more products. It's really up to you. Obviously start with a higher profit. That's a no-brainer, right? But you can see like how valuable SourceMogul is when you have this, because it's literally finding products that are the same that you can then compare from supplier to Amazon and then either buy them for online arbitrage or in this case, drop ship them. And obviously calendars is a great example of an obscure retail supplier that you can utilize. So now if we go back to the retailers, let's go through, because one of the main questions that I get asked when I start to teach people this is like, okay, so yeah, I understand that I'm supposed to use obscure retail suppliers, but like, what does that mean? Okay. And just like I said before, it's more of an art than a science. So obviously something like Kmart, not good. That is a big box brand that a lot of customers on Amazon, when they receive a Kmart box, are gonna know, right? And they're gonna be like, I ordered this from Amazon, why am I getting a Kmart box? Okay. So if you ordered for something like Sears, obviously same thing, big box. But if you ordered from somewhere like Fish Pond, not a big box retailer, right? Not recognizable by most people's standards. And so if you got a Fish Pond box, but you ordered something that had to do with like aquariums or fish, you wouldn't necessarily think it was drop shipped to you. And so this is a good example of an obscure retail supplier that you could utilize. Again, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, both big box brands, not good examples. Acme Tools, a great example of an obscure retail supplier, because if you were to drop ship like a DeWalt power tool from here, or in the last case, like the Staples, right? And it showed up in an Acme Tools box, you might just think that like that's the actual person that sold it to you on Amazon. You're not going to immediately think, most people at least aren't going to immediately think like, oh, like somebody drop shipped this to me, or why is it in a branded, like you're just going to think that that's the seller on Amazon. Okay. Webstaurant Store was another good one. It's a little bit recognizable to a lot of people that are like in the e-com game, but it's obscure enough that you can get away with it. I used to drop ship a ton of things from Webstaurant Store. Still recommend it. Game Nerds is obscure. Revita Cost is obscure. Calendars, like I said, is obscure. Best Buy I would not recommend. It's too big box. Midway is obscure. Target obviously is a no. Now Newegg is actually a really solid supplier that you can go through. They have a number of products on their website. I drop ship probably hundreds of things from Newegg's over the time where I was actually retail dropshipping on Amazon. And you can find a lot of great products here that you can dropship effectively. Obviously, they're coming from obscure sellers on Newegg because Newegg is also a marketplace as well. And so it's not going to be recognizable to your customers. Overstock's a bad one. Another great one is Musician's Friend. That is obscure. I used to sell all sorts of musician supplies, from instruments to all sorts of things that range from music. One of the best selling things that I sold on Musician's Friends, it was like a cowbell thing that sold really well. Another one was like a foot pedal for, I think, a guitar stand or something like that. There was a number of good ones that just sold all the time. And one of the good things about Musician's Friend is as you buy more and more on the platform, like a couple of purchases, which if you're dropshipping good products should happen relatively fast, you'll actually get pretty good cash back on Musician's Friend. And then like every 5 to 6 purchases is going to be free for you. The margins here can be great. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these because to sit here and go through 216 suppliers, on Source Mogul would probably take 30 minutes to kind of explain what I think is good and what isn't, but you get the picture. It's more of an art than a science. The more obscure, the better. Avoid big box brands and big box retailers, and you will be fine.